sent me.
Finally, Ryan's memories could be attached to a face, but who was he? Ryan's mother turned to this man for help, Dr. Jim Tucker, a child psychiatrist at the University of Virginia. For 50 years, researchers here have tracked 2,500 cases of children claiming past lives.
And your conclusion is what?
These cases demand an explanation, that we can't just write them off.
He's written about many of them in his book, Return to Life.
Today's video is a bit of a continuation from the previous video where I analyzed some research suggesting that the brainwaves of newborns, of neonates and even children resemble to those of severe stroke victims. This is that they present these very slow brainwaves called delta brainwaves, which have been tied to some research on altered states of consciousness. And what I mean is near-death experiences, the psychedelic breakthrough, these most transcendental experiences at a time where the brain is supposed to be in a state where it shouldn't be having any conscious experience because there is no brain activity. How is the brain creating these experiences? So this suggests that the brain is not the seat of consciousness. There's something else going on. So all of this research is going to be below. I'm going to put the links to some of the videos that I've done and the actual research of these babies. And I'm going to go in this video through through a site just showing the pediatric EEG and how as babies and as children start growing up, there is this transition from these delta brainwaves into theta, which are also slow and which are also prominent in up until adolescence, until the normal, quote-unquote, brainwaves alpha and beta that we commonly experience through waking consciousness. And now, as we've been tying together these brainwaves with the transcendental experience, there are cases where children, especially younger children, small children, have reported things like having past lives, like remembering their quote-unquote pre-mortal existence and how they came from somewhere else and they chose their parents and so on and so forth. There is also the phenomenon where children create these quote-unquote imaginary friends. So these are sort of also transcendental experiences in a way, and there is some research that is suggesting that, especially in the case of past life experiences, they have been confirmed. So there's something going on here as well as it is with some of the other transcendental experiences, but there's not a lot of research on children, but this is a fact, and all the research is going to be below. Before I move forward, I would like to remind you that if you want to join the growing discussion on consciousness and would like to be notified on the latest scientific discoveries and theories surrounding this topic and how they connect to ancient mythologies and philosophies, please like this video, subscribe to the channel as I'll try to upload weekly videos, live streams and short-form content surrounding the topic. Likewise, you can support and access all of my work on Patreon, a link below. Alright, so as I said, I'm going to go briefly into this pediatric EEG, which is assigned to learn about EEG and what's happening during infancy and into childhood. Until when do these babies or do these children have this slow brain activity? And it's very well broken down here, and I'm going to be talking a little bit at the end about the implications. So during the infancy, the first year of life on EEG is characterized by a preponderance of slow, high amplitude delta activities. I'm saying the delta sleep. Early in this time frame, there is significant amounts of delta activity, but as babies approach 1 year of age, theta frequencies become increasingly unmixed. So it's delta and then there is theta. Theta is a little bit more brain activity than delta, but it's still slow. So what we found in this research on entheogens from Christopher Timmerman, where he says that during the psychedelic breakthrough, that's where people have this extreme experience where, as I've said, sometimes they say they meet God, or they see geometric shapes, or they see aliens, rangers. They're told that everything is a cosmic joke and we're just playing here in the world and we're not really humans, and so on and so forth. When people are having this experience, what they realize is that they're going through a delta brainwave experience, which means that their brain is not really active. They are somewhere else. They are having this experience somewhere else, not in their brain. So what they find also is that there is delta and there is theta, and then there are surges during the psychedelic experience also with some of the other entheogens, what they find is a surge of brain activity. It goes into gamma, it goes into alpha, and goes into beta, which is the waking brain waves. So there's this surge of activity. This also happened. So I'm going to link that somewhere on the screen. You can find everything below. And there's that other one where they found the first EEG, which wasn't really the first, as I also have the research here. But it was the first EEG of a dying human brain. What they found is the same thing. It goes into delta, and then it has these surges of very complex brain activity that shouldn't be happening in a person who has been deemed clinically dead. So this is what's happening. So there's this surge of different brain activities, but mainly delta and theta, they're both very related and they're both slow. So this is what's happening during the first year of life. A whole year of a baby's life, the brain is inactive. Where is the baby really? Where is his? This is why we don't remember when we are babies. So here are the charts. If you want to go deep into analyzing the charts, I'm going to link this below. You can read it for yourself. I'm just going to go into it. Regarding sleep, by 2 months of age, stage 2 sleep, spindles develop. Initially, they can be very prolonged, up to 15 seconds at a time, and can remain asynchronous till up to 2 years of age. So these sleep spindles. So the first stage of sleep is when we're barely falling asleep and we have this sort of drowsiness, and we're just barely going into sleep. The second stage of sleep is when our brain activity decreases, our temperature decreases, our breathing decreases, everything slows down. But then we have what it is called these sleep spindles, which is these surges of brain activity, and then goes back into a slow brain activity, which is characterized here. This is a synchronous spindle where it's slow, and then then the spindles become consistent, and then there's this huge spindle somewhere here, and then there's a synchronous spindle. So it's a slow brain wave with little surges of brain activity, like in the second sleep stage of regular humans. This was happening in babies by 2 months into 4 months. Okay, so the early years, by 3 years of age, most of the delta activities in infants' background evolved to theta in this time frame, and alpha frequencies gradually come into the mix too. As I said, delta and theta are not too different apart. They're part of the same thing. It's a little bit more brain activity in theta, but still slow brain activity. Slow is still not what a normal adult is having usually. So these alpha frequencies, these are from adults. This is the waking life. This is when we are awake. So this gradually come into the mix up to 3 years of age. The children are running, they are doing things, and they're still having slow brain activity. Now, at 3 years of age, now something that I'm going to be bringing up here. So this is the brainwaves is boring, whatever. What people are finding out when these children start going to 3 years of age, 4 years of age, 5 years of age, this is when these children start to develop certain behaviors where they start to see or create quote unquote imaginary friends. And now when you think about imaginary friends, it all seems like children hyperactive imagination. That's what people would say. They're just having a hyperactive imagination. But how can they have a hyperactive imagination where their brain is not really as active as an adult's brain? They are somewhere else. They're going in and out. This is why in the literature it is understood that babies have this connection to the other world still. They're not as people would say, as corrupted as adults, where the adults just see their life, they just go to work, they don't have dreams or aspirations, their soul is dead. But in children, they are creative, they have these quote-unquote imaginary friends. Now, when you look into some of the literature on these imaginary friends, you find that there is some consistency into the aspects of these imaginary friends. And now, imaginary friends is one thing. The other thing is when children are saying that they remember their past lives. And now, just Google Jim Tucker, Dr. Jim Tucker. I haven't even spoken about him in this channel, but he's one of the prominent researchers on past life research. This is when children are saying, I had a past life. I remember my name was this, and I used to live in this place, and this happened happened to me, and this is how I died. And they go and confirm the whole story, and it turns out to be real. Sometimes these children have certain birthmarks where supposedly in the previous life they suffered trauma. So there's this very strange phenomena going on here, and this is when people say that. I remember people talk about premortal existence as well. And now I'm gonna put a little bit of a break here. So this is where I start connecting the dots, and this is what I'm doing in the book. I'm putting all the research that I've been going through, and I'm trying to tell a story with all of the research, with everything connecting together. Now, this whole idea of premortal existence. What is premortal existence? The idea that after we die, there is an afterlife. And before we're born, there is a before being born, an afterlife into being born again. So some people remember this stage. They're saying that I picked up my parents. I picked the life that I wanted to live. I was in this realm of light, or I was with source, or so on and so forth. They're saying these things. However, we have no way to prove this, or do we? Now, there is some research, and I featured, I'm going to link it somewhere in the screen. I talk about premortal existence. There is some research done in mammals where they look into the idea that they might have dreams about the world before being born. I said it right. Some people don't really understand how they manage to prove this. They are finding out that mammals dream about their world before being born. I'm going to link it somewhere on the screen. It's going to be below as well. And the title of how I titled this video was something along premortal existence, the idea that we exist before being born, or else how could we dream about the world? So what they did is they looked at rats, and they looked at rats before being born somehow, and they were tracking some of their signs and the signals, and they realized that before they are born, they are having this REM sleep stage, which is the latter stage of the sleep cycle. And this is when people are dreaming. They're having a conscious experience. And as I said, the muscles are paralyzed, but the eyes are still moving. So this is why it's called REM. What happens is that the eyes are still moving, and what they realize is that the eyes, I think the research was made on rats. They noticed that the eye movement from these rats simulates that they are running around in the world. So you would say, how do they know about the world if they haven't been even born? And that this is what I'm saying. There is this knowledge about the world from a non-physical perspective. And this is how they know about this world. Now, some people brought up the argument, which is a very fair argument, that it isn't that they know about the world, even though we have a lot, and it is in the hundreds of millions of reports, according to the latter research and the scientific consensus statement for the future research on NDEs, from people who are having out-of-body experiences after they die, and they see the world from a different perspective, and they are roaming around outside of their bodies, seeing the world. This is research. This is no longer philosophy. This is no longer assumptions. This is research, and it's going to be linked below in this video. So there's hundreds of millions of reports saying this. So thinking that there is non-physical experience, perhaps even of the world, and this is how these mammals are dreaming about the world. People were saying it's about epigenetics, it's about transferring this information, and I am saying, sure, it does not mean that it's not happening. So how does epigenetic works? So how is this information transferred through cells, through proteins? How does it really happen? At the end of the day, everything is data and information. Even if it was pure epigenetics, transferring the dreams of the mother, the parents, the progenitors of this rat, of this mammal, transferring their experiences to the newborn mammal, it would be amazing. We would talk about this interconnection of information. In any case, these mammals, these rats, were dreaming about the world about before being born, and this seems to happen in mammals of all kinds. So now, while they were looking at the REM, now we have this information that, and this happens probably in all mammals, that human babies, human children are not really connected to this world, are not really connected to their brains, the brain activity. And, as you tie all the information, it seems that when we are during this delta stage, we're not really connected to this world. We're somewhere else. Where exactly? I'm not really sure. Some people talk about the realm of light. Some people talk about, meeting entities. Some people talk about velvety voids that feel very comfortable. And they understand everything and they know everything about the universe and everything is in order. You go into the literature. There's a lot of literature on this. But this is where I'm going at with this research here. So in review, the pediatric EEG progresses from mostly to delta to mostly theta, and finally to the alpha-dominated adult tracing. So our wish is that as we grow up, we are into this stage of delta where we really have no brain activity, which is the whole question here, is how come babies are not having a stroke? How come they are alive? And we are alive. So this would explain a lot of things. How are people remembering their past lives? How people are remembering their pre-mortal existence? How come children have this imagination? How come they are remembering their past lives as well, as I said? A lot of these stories in the literature, it would make absolute sense. And what I've been saying is that these delta brainwaves are related to the transcendental experience. As I said, I've done a lot of research on this. You can find everything below. This is part of the few first chapters in my upcoming book, where I go into the science behind meaning, the science of near-death experiences, the science of all these transcendental experiences, and what seems to be happening. And mainly all of this is to make an argument to the idea that consciousness does not lie in the brain. For how our people are having these transcendental experiences where we have no brain activity. If the brain is the seat of consciousness, if the brain is who we are, when we talk about the brain does this, or the brain does that, or why is the brain doing this, we talk about the brain as if it was a separate entity from us, but it might be just a tool. How come babies are alive for 2, 1, 3 years without any actual brain activity? How come they're not having a stroke? We are not our brains. The brain might be a filter, as these brain filter theories are suggesting. Whatever is happening while we are in delta are conscious experiences that are not really here. And some people remember them and some people don't. We remember our dreams sometimes, we remember our meaningful dreams, sometimes we don't remember anything. People are having these near-death experiences, people are having psychedelic breakthroughs where they are explained everything. They come back, they barely remember anything, but they know it happened. And sometimes they do remember. What is happening here? What's happening is that these memories are not in our brain. This is why we don't really remember. This is why we forget our dreams so fast. So this is a work in progress, as I said, but all the information is here. You can go into on the ongoing research playlist that I have here. Every single video has some sort of research attached to it. The book that I'm writing is going to be plagued. What I want it to be is I want it to be plagued by research. Every single chapter is going to include at least one line of documented research with their appropriate citations. This is an ongoing research and it's really, really, really interesting. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. A Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it'll help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.